Another challenge that I think that I feel as if growers have to deal with too when they're trying to hone in their system is food.
Ooh.
Because when it comes to synthetic,
I'm hungry
I have to
a little bit now you said that.
specifically is that if you listen to the companies themselves, you need all of these individual items to get the plant to grow at its all-time best, and it can be a real challenge to dial in what bottles, what nutrients are necessary, more importantly, what bottles already have more than one of these available, so I don't need to separate the bottles individually. And I think that can be avoided by either trying just the base nutrients to see how your genetics respond to that. Some genetics respond wonderfully to base nutrients. I know I've talked about in the past some of my favorite nutrients, and I can almost guarantee you that a lot of my favorite nutrients of all time,
wasn't that the Dutch
Dead
company?
Ops, Holland's Hope,
Nutrients. Genetics, you mean?
No. I just mean some of my my favorite. Oh, hold on. Let me repeat if I mess that up. Some of my favorite genetics of all time.
There you go.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Have been very easy to grow and could accept a base nutrient and still satisfy me very, very well. Add a stash blend on that. I'm just
which is 100% necessary every single component.
Which is an essential.
It's an additive.
An additive. Right? Not an essential, sorry. It's a premium additive.
It's essentially
I think it's essential.
Additive.
It's essentially an additive. So it's an additive. You don't have to be so complicated. We can make this complicated with organics. We can make this complicated with synthetic. We can make this organic with synganic. We can continue to make this as complicated as we want, but at the end of the day, it is just a plant. It will grow with, in some cases, not limited, but the base nutrients, and that can be a challenge to understand that.
Well, that, and you also don't need to be so focused on your ppms or EC if you're brand new. Those letters may be scary. Just follow the routine regimen that's given to you with if it's a synthetic line, I can't even talk, or even if it's not organic.
Everything has a dosage on it.
Follow that. I know so many people who have no idea what that meter is. They've never used it. They just have a pH meter, and some of them do both. They have no idea, and they don't care. They just follow exactly what the bottle says. Their plants are vibrant green. The buds are pretty good, and if they're not, they move on to the next genetic. And that's totally fine. That's totally acceptable, especially as a brand new grower. Don't throw yourself too deep into the water without a life preserve, because it can make you not want to swim again, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've come across so many growers that have hit me up. They're like, okay, I got these base nutrients, but what's the silica all about? What is this bloom booster? Can I add this too? How about mycorrhizal fungi? And what about the bacteria? And so it's kind of like an information overload, like we talked about earlier, right? But it's a challenge as a new grower to figure out what exactly they should be feeding in to their medium, right? Adding into their medium. And that's one thing, just to get a little bit more detailed on Stash Blend. One of the main reasons why I released Stash Blend is to help save money for the consumer. We put a whole bunch of different inputs in one blend. You've got your silica, you've got your mycorrhizal fungi, you've got your beneficial bacteria, you've got some nutrition, a 2, 1, 5. So it's a true additive, and you can save money. Instead of buying individual bottles there, you can get it in one blend. So I definitely want to point that out because it's something we worked hard on, we truly believe in. And if you're interested in kind of learning more in detail about it, go to stashblend.com, discount code TheStash, and highly recommended.
Well, and by the time you're watching this, it may be half in French in the back. Shout out to Canada for finally.
Yeah. Cool. A challenge too, unless you wanted to continue on something in the food, I think a result of a challenge with dialing in your food is, of course I got to cough as soon as I start talking.
You're good, because I could take over if you want.
Did you have something you wanted to add
related to food? Related to food.
Go, please.
One thing that I think a lot of people also struggle with when it does come to food is which food is the best brand. What's the secret sauce? What's going to be the best one? Well, I heard Advanced I get the biggest buds. Well, House and Garden I get the biggest buds. Well, Ventana Plant Science I get it's a complete nutrition regimen. That's what gets you the best buds. And honestly, the best company that's doing it in terms of the program versus the nutrients would probably be Athena. And it's not the nutrients, it's the program. Because they're telling you step by step, like a dietary supplement thing. They're not saying, hey, order these meals and just be good. They're like, here's when you eat them. Here's how much you eat them. Here's when you fast. It's to the T, and that's where more companies need to get better at that, giving you not just a breakdown of your feed chart, give you a breakdown of how to use these nutrients in the feed chart, when to, how many times per week exactly, based on a science to the T, and then those results will speak for themselves, and people will be like, dude, look at what I'm getting since I switched from, let's say, general hydroponics to this complete nutrition line. It's not just because it's the nutrient. It's because it's how it's implemented. It's huge.
Yeah, see, I think that's one thing, too, that's really difficult to understand, can be a challenge, is that, in my opinion, nutrients are they're all just chemicals in a bottle with water. It's not that magnesium is magnesium is magnesium. Nitrogen is nitrogen is nitrogen. It really comes down to how it's being derived, how where it's coming from. But nutrient is a nutrient is a nutrient. The part that you're buying into as a consumer is their proprietary mixture. We have Stash Blend. Every nutrient line is essentially a blend of that company's mixture of nutrients. Some believe maybe you need a little more potassium than phosphorus at the end of flour. Some think maybe you need a little more phosphorus instead of potassium. And most believe that you want to increase the carbs and the sugars towards the end, but it's how much. How much does this particular blend think that they can push the flour towards the end of its life to get the most amount of terpenes? Every company, I would expect, should be very passionate about their method of getting you to that finish line and saying, hey, I think mine's better because I've increased this, and this to get you here. So that's what you're paying for, and I think it's important to not get lost by the pretty girls on the bottle or the price tag or how fancy the label is. Sometimes it's really how much are you getting it and where's it coming from.
Well, I think there's also the only counter to that would be if you're, let's say, someone who's, I'll just get this piece, and you, let's say, get a calcium, magnesium that may have nitrogen also in it or have a little extra. There's some things
that's their blend.
Yeah, and that's the part where you got to know your basics, because if you're just trying to make your own recipe where it's, I got these base nutrients, I got these additives, I have this here, they may not all play together exactly the same. That's where Stash Blend versus something like Recharge, it's a little scarier for a brand new grower who's saying, I'm going to just implement this additional base nutrient also within my normal regimen without knowing how that's going to be affecting everything. You need to taper it back potentially versus something like Recharge or Dynamico even, where you don't have to worry about that. You could just put it right in. So while it could be more beneficial, all it takes is just education. That's the information overload, but there's a fine line. You can't get lost in the information, but you also can't get lost in the ignorance. Because if you get the 5 different bottles and then throw Stash Blend and then throw Great White and then throw Dynamico all in, it's like, learn what you're doing before
it's
you
in your
start.
Fox Farm soil.
In your Fox Farm soil that's also amended with some worm castings. It's like, dude, learn what you're doing. Don't do too much. And also know that your nutrients have a step-by-step process and a program often that will help you. You don't just freestyle all the time. This FTS clip was brought to you by AC Infinity, leaders in garden innovation. Use discount code TheStash15 at checkout to save some money on your order.
From the Stash Podcast.